Welcome to the session. Today, I wanted to just talk about how to build MVP and get feedback from the experience that I had over the years. But before I do that, I want to just start with who am I? I am currently living in Barcelona. I'm from Turkey. I am actually a computer engineer. We actually studied in the same university with Çağrı in Turkey. This is my 10th year in product management. Since I graduated, I always were in as a PM in different scale of companies. I spend my time on B2B, B2C. I worked in supply products, internal products. I had different experiences in the customer services, cybersecurity, real estate, travel, and now I think my passion and where I'm really glowing, let's say, is at tech. I love at tech products. And previously, I was working at Udemy around 2 years. Now I'm working for Preply. It's my second year now, end of second year. I'm also teaching fundamentals of product management for different live cohorts for more than 2 years with Brick Institute. So I have the passion to the product. I worked in startups. I worked in really big corporate companies. And today I will just dive in to share my experience about MVPs and how you can get feedback. Let's start. So today, quickly, I will talk about what is MVP. And there is a lot of sources to understand what it is, but I will just give you how I think of it. And then I will show you case examples that I had, good and bad, so we can understand how things can go wrong or how things can go right. And then finally, we'll have 5 minutes to answer any questions you have. But during this time, you can also send your questions in the chat so I can address them while I go through the topic. Okay, let's start. So what is MVP? So MVP is a term that Eric Ries actually founded. Eric Ries is the author of Lean Startup. I assume most of you already read the book, so I don't want to go detail on there. But the definition is super interesting. The definition says it's a version of the product that allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least amount of effort. The interesting thing here, we assume MVP in general, the common mistake is everyone assumes MVP is just a set of features that could solve the problem, but we don't need other features, so let's pick them and then launch. But if you look at the definition, the goal of an MVP is collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers. The goal of an MVP should be the learning of the product, learning if you actually solve the customer problem. And you do that with the least amount of effort. So this may mean creating a product or may not mean one. So you can think of it in different ways. When we look into the journey, generally people assume, or generally MVP term is used as a viable. By the way, viable is also really important. I will touch upon here. If you look into that, the product cycle is you have a problem, you bring solutions to them, and then you validate your solution, and then you deliver it. And then you measure that solution, and then come back to the new problems. There's a whole cycle that goes all around for any product. And then once MVP currently and mostly is assumed as a delivery tool because it is helping you to understand what to deliver first. But if you look at this history, I will not go through each of them, but you discover a problem, then you identify what it is, then you assess whether it's worth solving, then you ideate those solutions, you explore more evidence, you prioritize them, validate all these solutions, and then come to this part. So until you come to this part, there are a lot of steps that you need to take in order to know that this is a valuable product, this is a viable product. But what happens? Generally, we skip this stage, or people skip these stages, maybe skip the problem, skip the validation, start with the solution, and then define what is viable. And viable is basically what you believe is a solution. But in reality, viable should be whether you are solving this problem or not, because this is a customer problem. That's the user problem that you are looking for. That's why even if it's considered to define our MVP as a delivery tool and then start discussing about this part, actually MVP should be a game changer. MVP should be a validation tool too. There are various ways to think about it, but we cannot assume MVP is just a tool to deliver the product. Especially in early stages of any new product, it's really risky to assume your work, you need to wait for proof of concept and then MVP and then launch. But there are multiple ways to learn whether your idea is good or bad. So if you look at MVP itself, this is how I see it, right? This is not like a textbook definition. This is how I generally approach it. Basically, MVP is a tool that can measure validity of your solution and how attractive it is. What do I mean by that? So you can measure the interest to your product through an MVP. Your problem would be how might we understand the interest of my customers, or your problem would be, hey, I am solving this problem. How well my solution would solve the problem of my audience, right? So there are two different things, but both of them are MVP. Both of them can be played as a validation tool or delivery tool. In the validation stage or delivery stage, in interest, you basically what you do is you measure the attractiveness of the tool. What do I mean? So you can measure willingness to pay, You can measure whether it works. You can measure if people are hyped to do such thing. Like maybe you heard it before. Zynga founded a term called fake door. What do? They don't build products before they actually do anything. They just put a button and then they just pop up an information. Hey, we are working on this feature. Thanks for reaching out. So basically, they test your interest, giving you a fake button. So then they can measure whether it's worth solving, right? Because the problem is, should I solve it? And then they explore it in different ways. There are Wizard of Oz concept testing techniques. Wizard of Oz, if you read the testing with humans, you will see how they apply that technique. But basically, how you can have a product without having a product to understand if this is actually what your clients, what your customers want. And if you look at the idea of interest, you are not solving that problem first. You are just understanding whether they are interested. I mean, it can also be like a fake landing page. You can collect a subscriber list, but you don't actually build that product yet. You just measure whether it's working or not. These are also MVPs. These are also types of MVPs that you can look into that. And when you look at the engagement piece, again, it can be an actual product, yes. If you already have formed a product, it can be an AB. If you already have a customer base, you can go for a pilot. With if you are in B2B realm. If you want to do certain things with, let's say, you want to start with a certain market. This is the first time your product is going like a beta with a few clients or a few users. That's fine. This is the place to do that. But you can do that by building the product or even not building the product yet. There's a technique called concierge that premises that you have all these features manually done by you and your team while the actual product is not there. So you can use that product without actually having that product in. There's also another technique that enables you to drive that. So basically, my message here, when I will move to the real examples. So MVPs can be applied to any stage with any method, as long as we understand what viable and minimum means. Because minimum viable product, minimum is the least amount of effort. Sometimes it's engineering is costly. Letting people build things and then failing those things is costly. And for a startup, it's super risky. Your investment, if you don't have the return, you may lose your company so quickly, right? So that minimum is super important. Mastering those different techniques, mastering those MVP definitions will be super crucial. And I would always recommend you to reevaluate your problem to understand what is minimum to solve that problem. And then to solve that problem, we have an answer with viable, whether your solution will be viable or not. Viable means whether you actually solve that problem. It's not like, hey, it's okay if I don't have that feature. Go validate that feature first and then see if that is solving problem or not, and then decide. That is how generally the book also explains it and how I see it. Cool. So let's move to some real-time examples that I had before. So I will talk about 3 different experiences I had. I worked in cybersecurity, that I will have one example for that. I will give you a supply strategy topic that's not a brand new feature, but it's a really cool problem. And then the last one is actually kind of a startup in a startup. And I will give you how we repurpose the pricing model. So let's start. Introducing a new product line. I worked in Komodo. Komodo is an ITSM product that is headquartered is in US, offices in Turkey, Ukraine. There were locations in India, in China, and Russia. So it's a pretty big located company. But in the nuance, it's almost a startup because none of the products that hit the product market fit beside endpoint security. So we were selling our device management tool, which enables MSPs. They are managed service providers. They are outsourced ITs. They can manage your devices from their offices while you are in the other side of the world. So the model with us with freemium device management. So we give all those tools that you see in the screen are free until you want to buy endpoint security. That's where we charge you. But all the other features is like a hook for you to come in. Right? It's a huge platform, but we had a hook for this until we enable them for certain number of devices and then start charging for it. So the problem that we were tackling, we were able to capture those MSPs who uses the endpoints like MacBooks, Windows, or certain level of mobile devices. MDM means mobile device management. But we were missing the big part, whether we also have servers, but we are missing the big part of network devices. And the network devices, without that, they start using multiple products instead of just us. And then this creates another risk that they can go to those products if they see good features about them. So we wanted to complete the experience so we don't let them have multiple products at once. That was a kind of a strategy for us. So we were having problems on the retention and sales by 20-25%. Every time we lose a client, we knew that it's 20% of the time it was because of network devices. So we explored building and integrating our new network device management solution. So what did we do? We created a focus group study. We dive into understanding MSPs. But these MSPs were really close to us. Then we looked at the competition, identified open source tools that we can use. We created the validation where we wanted to explore how we can actually understand right MVP and we come up with, okay, let's do the monitoring first. And in 6 months, we only delivered one monitor, which is SNMP, which is the basics of network management, if you know. So that wasn't a really good way to execute. So then what we learned, what was the result? Initially, this feature increased the hype in the people that they are actually clients. So we see 15% uplift on the devices we manage. However, it wasn't impactful to either retention or sales conversion because it's only one feature that took 6 months to go to market and didn't even have the full context of what they need. So the problem was minimal, sure, but it wasn't viable. So it didn't create the impact that we wanted to. So we learned that we were far from the real customers because we started with only focus groups that is close to us. That's a common mistake that we do. And we were late in the technical discovery. We started involving engineering teams maybe in the third month, but it was too late because this is purely technical structure architecture that needs to be done, that we missed that train. We didn't define MVP well, only looked at the features when we decide what we need to do. And delivery took too long because there was miscommunications between the teams. So basically, this is an example that we tried to do a really cool thing, but in the end, it didn't work like this. And I found a couple of screens that I had before. So you can see we added this network management beta. Maybe it's not seen well, but this has only one thing, while we have all these tools here. So it is not very well planned on the go-to-market. Next example. So I worked in Udemy. We were trying to understand what is the best way to manage supply. I worked in the instructor side of things. The business model for Udemy, most of you know, it's commissions through each sale based on the traffic. And for enterprise, there's a different pricing. The problem that we were tackling, since Udemy is growing a lot, right? In the COVID times, it was incredible high. So the expansion of B2B introduced a new challenge. Some topics saturation, meaning the health of those topics, the list of courses, number of courses on those topics, become risky. And clients, B2B clients, started asking for certain topics that is not available in the marketplace. And we started creating modeling whether a topic is healthy or not, whether we need to do more things on that topic or not, because that was super crucial for us to understand if we have enough topics on certain markets, because that was the one driving conversion. So we tried to build a platform, build a mechanism to grow that supply based on our enterprise clients' needs, plus based on the marketplace conversion that we want to increase. So, yes, the execution plan we had, we deep dive on everything. We tried to do it in 2 work streams. We first collect all the business client needs and then identify those gaps. So basically, gaps identified through a machine learning algorithm based on the search, understanding how well it works. And then finally, we reviewed the existing approaches that we have. There was a tool that I will show you in a screen called Marketplace Insight tool and Marketing Mark. And we decided to what is MVP. I can actually show you the Marketplace Insights tool. So you add your topic, gives you some insights, gives you how many lessons there, and then the search volume and everything attached to it. But it's a really complex tool. There is a really complex logic behind it. So it's hard to build on it. This means that it can take too much time to get the results. So we assumed we can create a smart way by not using the product itself, but using the data without actually building into a product and then showcasing it to the instructors. So we created a set of pages that gives an outline and a topic saying, hey, this is the top topic. This is the outline that we need to you. This is the timeline that you need to give that topic to us. And then try to do community posting in product messaging and emails to start running a pilot for the certain topics that we want. And we noticed that actually people are creating classes once we introduced them. And in first month, we actually had a lot of courses. It wasn't the actual quality courses in the beginning, but when we ramp up, we actually were able to close more than 20% of the gaps. And out of 20%, maybe 10% of them were coming from the quality topics. So we were able to handle the demand of the clients, handle the demand of the learners, and help the instructors to find what is next. And for here, we proved that our insights and tooling should be shifted, right? We need to refresh our memories based on this campaign. This informed that, okay, we need to think about this tool that I showed you in a better way. The second thing that we noticed, there's quality and fraud concerns. People started playing with that, creating a lot of courses. And then it was quick and dirty with the MVP, right? We just used the WordPress page, used just a community post. It was super hacky, and everything was in Google Docs, and then we just launched it. And but we needed a higher quality if you wanted to succeed. This is a scalable solution. And then the last part is we started putting this as a part of sales pitch. So we also converted our mindset and saying, hey, in sales, we went to the client. If you need a solution, if you need a topic, by all means, just let us know. It's so easy for us. We can give you in a month about a lot of things. But to recap, I showed you 3 examples, and then we talked about different parts of MVP. But the summary is, you know what minimum is, you know what viable is, you know what product is. Then it will be okay. It's basically how you define the problem and how you actually attack that problem and different stages of your experience.